Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another insightful episode of Get to Know the Real Estate Ecosystem, brought to you by Our Clarity, your go to podcast for unfiltered stories from the people shaping the real estate market. This is the episode where we go behind the scenes with leaders shaping our industry. I'm your host Anisha Bhatnagar, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel at Real-Estate.Channel. Now, do you know what it takes to build a no fear mindset in real estate? Well, for most of us, that's a goal, but for our today's guest, it was foundational training. Lisa Comito didn't start her career in real estate. She started it as an assistant district attorney in New York County, handling some of the city's toughest cases. That high stakes environment taught her that preparation always trumps performance and that collaboration is always non negotiable. When life unexpected turns led her to real estate, she didn't just adapt, she excelled it. As a licensed attorney and broker associate in both New York and New Jersey, and the former president of Greater Bergen Realtors, Lisa has built a remarkable career by blending legal precision with creative, empathetic coaching. She rose from agent to regional manager by treating every challenge as an opportunity and every agent as an individual with unique potential. So, in this episode, Lisa will unpack her incredible journey from the courtroom to the closing table. This conversation is packed with actionable wisdom, so listen closely and stick around for a fun rapid fire segment at the end to hear her take on everything from legal dramas to the best risks she has ever taken. So let's dive into it. Lisa, a very warm welcome to the show.
Well, hi, Anisha. Thank you so much for having me on this show.
So, Lisa, take us back to your early days as an assistant district attorney. What was that experience like, and how did it shape your professional identity?
So, we're going back many years ago now, and I will never forget my interview with Morgan, who was the district attorney at the time in New York County. And he said, Lisa, this will be one of the best experiences you'll have in your life. And he was right. It was the foundation that really shaped me as a person and as a professional. I worked with an amazing team from my coworkers, other assistant district attorneys, but also to the investigators that I worked with. And I think some of the most important skills that I gained was learning how to listen, really listen. I think it's one of the hardest skills to learn because I think we hear things, but we don't always take them in. We don't listen to them and to respond to what people are telling us. And that was one of the biggest things that you had to overcome and learn and adapt because we were dealing with people. And you have to be able to listen to people and what they really want, the outcome of what they want out of things. The other thing was also learning to collaborate. I dealt with large teams and I really quickly learned that being a leader is not a single-handed job. You hear all the time people say there's no I in the word team. Well, it's really true. As a leader, you're only as good as your team is. And I learned that very early on, and I carry through that today in the real estate industry.
That's wonderful. So, Lisa, you have described developing a no fear mentality. What does that mean to you in practice?
So when I say it's a no fear mentality, I don't mean that there's literally no fear. I think everyone has fear of the unknown, fear of difference, but it's about embracing that fear. Almost, I would say, being comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's adapting and just learning how to fight through it and accepting those challenges when you're fearful of them.
Yes, that is so true. And how did those courtroom experiences translate into your approach to negotiations and problem solving in real estate?
So I would say that it's not necessarily the actual courtroom experience. It was the work leading up to the courtroom. There's always a process, whether it's in the courtroom or whether it's doing real estate and doing a transaction. They're totally different things, but yet it's all about preparation, how you prep for things, setting expectations, again, listening to people and really doing that work beforehand. Learning to negotiate is learning to listen to the other side, learning how to talk to the other side, seeing if I'm representing a buyer, you have to know what the seller wants, what their expectations are. And that's how you become a good negotiator. So the work is really done before you're in the midst of the actual transaction or in the midst of being in the courtroom.
What was the biggest mindset shift you had to make when transitioning from law to real estate industry?
I don't think there was really a big shift in mindset. My mindset is to always grow, to learn, to move forward, overcome those fears or those uncomfortable situations, and also to teach and mentor. As an attorney, when I shifted from criminal law into civil litigation, I became a mentor and I taught younger attorneys how to do depositions, how to do opening and closings in their trials. And I love it. So, I've kind of brought that forth into the real estate. And again, it's the same kind of mindset.
Got it. So, Lisa, just to clarify your background, you were an attorney handling civil litigations after starting with criminal cases, correct?
Correct. So at first, I started out my career out of law school at the New York County District Attorney's Office, and I had left shortly after 9/11 happened, and I switched my career to turn to civil litigation. I worked for an insurance defense firm.
Got it. So, just for our listeners, when we talk about civil litigation, it's not typically about family cases. It often involves things like insurance defense and a broad range of other matters. Is that so?
Correct. It's when someone has insurance, we all have insurance. Like, it can be homeowners insurance for a business. They have their business insurance. And let's say an accident happens. The insurance, you call your insurance company and someone has sued you. The insurance company then hires an attorney and that attorney represents you and the insurance company. So that would be the person that I was. And I did various kind of different lawsuits.
Got it. It sounds like you have carried that broad expertise into real estate. So, you understood the ecosystem from the other side as well. Like, your mindset coming from a law background has really helped you in this real estate world.
Absolutely. So when you talk about the mindset and the ecosystem, I look at it as an attorney, I would get a case. And whether I was representing the plaintiff side or the defendant side, it really didn't make a difference. To be successful and good at what you did, you always had to set the expectation of what is the other side going to do. So you had to know both sides of the case, so to say. But in real estate, I say to my agents, you always have to know both sides of the transaction because especially we have so many realtors out there and unfortunately, they're not always the best. There are great agents out there and there are some agents that do very few deals a year and may not understand the law or how to do the transaction. It is our responsibility when we're representing a client to expect that. I tell my agents, expect the unexpected.
Mhm.
And I want you, agent, to be able to put it all together, to know both sides and to be ready to help, assist, and do both sides.
Got it. That makes perfect sense, especially regarding the prep work you mentioned. Were there any moments when your legal instinct clashed with the way real estate typically operates?
I don't think my legal instinct clashed. I do see a lot being an attorney. I do tend to look at things in the law. And I have seen plenty of times and plenty of instances, I should say, where the law wasn't always necessarily followed. And for me, I try to use that as teaching moments. I'm
Right.
not one to go and attack people, but yet I want to bring it out and let people know that they're doing something wrong and explain why they're doing it wrong and what should be changed.
So, can you share a case or an example that you are comfortable with? We would learn from it. Was like any moment you can share with us that you called a teaching moment.
Sure. So I can talk to you about the new law that was passed last year in New Jersey. It's the New Jersey Real Estate Consumer Enhancement Protection Act. And under that law, agents are required to do extra steps that they were never required to do before. And one example is to sign a buyer representation agreement when an agent is working with a buyer. And unfortunately, I have seen agents that will just randomly take out clients and then think that they are working with them in a buyer agent capacity. And then that buyer may have come to one of my agents and said, well, no, I haven't signed anything. And, I have called up the other agent and explained to them where they didn't understand that they had to sign a buyer rep agreement. And this really isn't their client. That client is free to choose to work with anyone they want at that point because they don't have an agreement. So it hurts that person's business and agent's business when they don't understand the laws.
Any other example to make our listeners, a bit more educated on such thing, or any other agent who is listening to this video right now, they might can get the right direction.
So, another thing that I could see quite often are agents that have a listing and someone comes to see the home at, let's say, an open house. And then they say they want to start working with that agent, or maybe they don't even say they want to start working with the agent, but they just start talking about the house and talking about putting in an offer. And the agent will continue in that conversation. And the problem is they're missing disclosing at that point that they would be a dual agent, which is an agent that now is going to be representing both the seller and the buyer. And it is mandatory by law that they have a consumer information sheet that describes the different roles of the agents, and they explain that to the buyer. I think we see that as a very big problem in our industry, that we just don't have enough transparency. And that's what these new laws are meant to fix. They are meant to help agents be more transparent with the consumers and the clients.
So, Lisa, this is for our understanding. If any agent or if any client want to understand all these laws, where can they go and, look for them?
They can look up the New Jersey Real Estate Enhancement Consumer Protection Act. That is a law. So they can look that up directly. It is also found on the New Jersey Association of Realtors. Realtors can look in there. They can also look if they're in Greater Bergen. I know our local board, Greater Bergen Realtor Association, has the laws on there as well to help educate. Agents should also be hopping onto classes and learning about these new laws and these new changes to make sure they are kept abreast of what is going on.
So, Lisa, who is responsible for such kind of training? Is it the company or the agent themselves?
So it's a combination of both of them. Because as an agent is what is called a 1099 worker, they are independent contractors. And for me, an independent contractor and you're getting your real estate license is like a driver who is getting their driver's license. It is their job to understand and know the laws, right? So if you get pulled over, if you go through a red light and you get pulled over and you get a ticket, you can't say, oh, I didn't know the law. It's your job to know the law. But same thing said, when you are an agent, you are sponsored by a brokerage. You hold your license with a brokerage, and that broker and office manager are responsible for the agents. So we are responsible to be training and teaching and providing our agents with the necessary information to keep them abreast of what's going on in the industry.
So, Lisa, you have mentioned collaborating was a key part of your time in DA's office. How do you foster that same team spirit in your brokerage or coaching work days that you are currently doing?
So it's interesting. Every time I meet a new agent that's interested in joining our offices, I talk to them about collaboration. I want to hire agents that are collaborators, ones that help build our office culture. We have a great office culture where one agent helps another agent. If it can't get to an appointment, someone is always ready to jump in and help out. I just think it is so important to have that within the office. You don't want that strict competitiveness where you are so scared to do something or say something because someone else is going to steal your idea or take advantage of you. I think we have to work as a team, and our business is about competition, right? One agent is competing for a listing against another agent, but it doesn't mean you can't collaborate to help and teach each other because it just makes us better as a whole.
One of our guest speakers told us about how important is knowing your personality in real estate today is. It is he follows a disc model. Have you heard about it?
I have.
He is retired, he's a veteran, but he wants to help other agents who are trying to figure it out, because he says that once you know your personality, it is very easy for you to then, just crack any deal or connect with any client or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super interesting, and I agree with that. As a manager, I think it's important to see the person's personality. We deal with all different personalities. Everyone learns differently. So you have your different, there are 4 different categories in your DISC category. And if you're dealing with someone that's very passive as opposed to someone's very aggressive, you're going to be training them in 2 different ways. So there is no one size fits all these days. Just like we're in an industry right now, in a time, I should say right now, where we're seeing 5 different generations of buyers and sellers that are completely different. You find them in different places. They're on different social platforms. They respond to different things. And you have to be in tune with that. So very similar to that. Again, it's about collaborating because it's hard for one person to know it all. So when you're learning, and let's say you're dealing with mainly seniors that are downsizing, and now you're dealing with a millennial, totally different. And so one agent may have a perspective to be able to help you, because our job is to help our clients, right? We have to understand our clients to be able to help them. So again, sharing of information is just key.
Got it. That is so awesome. So, Lisa, 9 years is a significant amount of time with one company. What made you stick with your job, and what do you love most about it?
It's so funny because before this, I literally just reposted a video I did 3.5 years ago. And it was just, one of those flashback moments from a
Where
new office that
on
we
on
acquired.
on LinkedIn?
So I posted that on Instagram and also Facebook. So you can do at Rand Realty Bergen is the link you could go to, and you'll find me. I don't have huge social media, say that, but it's slowly growing. But interesting. It was that I am with a company that it's a family owned company. It's an independent company, and when I joined it, it was unexpected, I would say. I had been in the real estate business already about probably a little over 10 years, and I was doing sales. And I was at that point getting ready to go back to practicing law. And I went to a continuing legal education class where I happened to run into and meet Marsha Rand, who is the founder of Rand Realty. And she said, well, wait, don't go back to practicing law just yet. I may have an interesting proposal for you. And I would think it was maybe not even 2 months later, I ended up being a manager at one of the offices in New Jersey. And it was eye opening, something I wasn't used to doing. And I have to say, though, they embraced my creativity, my out of the box thinking, and being different. Again, I don't think I could get that with a corporate run office. Sometimes say I beat to my own drum, and it works for me and for my agents. I have many agents that have been with me from the time I started, and they're still there today. I would say that's the majority of my agents. We have a great time. It's a great company that just supports. It supports you as a manager, and it supports the agents. They're really about growing us individually.
So we have discussed before also that you have been something about your professional journey. We would like to touch that. It has shaped by major life events. So you have also faced life-changing moments, starting from 9/11 to personal health challenges and family loss. How did those experiences influence your approach to work and leadership?
I think one of the questions that is so often asked during an interview is, where do you still see yourself in 5 years, in 10 years down the road? I think, especially coming out of school, we all have this vision of how our life is going to be. And unfortunately, I think sometimes you quickly have to learn that life isn't always going to be as planned. And there are going to be hurdles that get in the way. And there are going to be things that change your path. 9/11 definitely changed my path. I absolutely loved my job at the district attorney's office. But after 9/11, for me personally, being there that day, I needed to leave the city, whether, someone looks and says, oh, well, let's see, I wasn't being very strong. It was just how it hit me. And at that moment in time, I needed to leave. And that's how I quickly shifted into civil litigation. And there, again, I thought, here we go. Like this was my new life, my new job. And I loved that job as well. I really haven't had any jobs that I didn't love. So, I've been very, very fortunate. I've had fantastic leaders and mentors in my life at each job that I've worked. But after I was at my job in my civil litigation, which was Harrington, Acco and Monk, I had gone out on maternity leave and I was going to go back and I did end up having health problems. And unexpected, here I was, and I will just share for all the women out there um, that I had repeated multiple miscarriages after my first son. And it was a really difficult time. And if you know me, I don't like to do things halfway. I have to be all in or not in at all. And so it was really difficult for me. Trial work just was not going to happen at the time. So I had left. Interestingly, I met someone that said, hey, you're an attorney, you can be a realtor, but you just have to get your license, pay for your license. And it was an interesting thing that I kind of joked about with my husband at first, and I did it. And I don't know, here we are. So it was just an interesting journey how I got here. No regrets.
I understand. Lisa, you have been working when you were 16. Am I right?
I was, yes. So we grew up, we came from what I would say is like a lower middle class family. There wasn't a lot of money to go around. And so if, at that time it was my brother and my mom, my sister had already moved out, and my parents were divorced. So just, we had to chip in to keep our house, home ownership. And so, yeah, I learned from an early age on, you have to work hard.
Lisa, all I can say after learning your story is that you are a very strong person and you are a
Yeah.
true leader. So, what gave you the courage to step into real estate after such a demanding and emotionally charged career in law?
So again, it wasn't, I didn't even decide to step into real estate. It just happens when I met that one agent that she had actually come to our house to possibly list. We were building a house at the time and we were going to, again, our townhome at the time. And she said, well, wait, you're an attorney. Why don't you just get your license and list it yourself? Never even crossed my mind and did. Here I was, someone that had been working her whole life and always busy, always had something going on, always working mostly two jobs when I was younger, all through law school, worked full time, went to law school full time. And I think I was always just on that treadmill going, going, going. And then, so when these health issues started, I was all of a sudden home and didn't know what to do with myself. I taught myself to cook and I got into real estate, both by chance. One, because my first son didn't sleep. And so I was watching Giada all the time and I learned how to cook from watching TV. But yeah, and then just, falling into this real estate, as I said, my husband was a builder. So it just seemed to fit at the time.
So, Lisa, tell me, how does this work? Like, does your husband builds a property and then you help him sell it as a team? Do you guys work together?
Yeah. um, when I first started out doing sales, I would. Now I really don't do a lot of selling. I found it better for my husband and I to keep our separate worlds, which is okay. But I right now I'm a true believer in my office that I am what they call a non-competing manager. I do not compete with my agents. I don't know. I don't think it's appropriate. I want to teach my agents and support them in every way I can. So what I will do is I work in New Jersey. That's my baby, New Jersey. But if I have people that come to me now and then, I'll have personal relationships that do ask me to list or sell. That will be in New York. I don't do it in New Jersey where I manage.
Got it. Did you ever question whether you were starting over, or did it feel like an evolution of your existing strengths?
Mm, Not really starting over. It was just a change. Everything is just a change. I think you just accept life as it's thrown at you and you make your changes, you embrace them, and you just try to do the best that you can with them.
I got it. And you always consider yourself as a person who thinks outside the box. So where does that come from?
I don't know. I've always just been a little bit different. I like to do things my way. I say my mind thinks in a million different ways at one time.
So let's talk more about that leadership journey. What was your biggest early win that made you feel that yes, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be in real estate today?
I don't know that there's one big thing that stands out. Um, I'm enjoying the ride, so to say. Life is like a roller coaster, and you just have to go with it.
So here you have also shared that there is one defining moment where you have shared that you have agents that have been with you for years.
You know that that's definitely self-fulfilling, and it makes, yourself feel really good when you have people coming to you. It's not something that you really set out to do, but it feels really good that when you see, the respect that other people have for you. And I always say, I try to support my agents and they support me as well. Again, we work as a team. I try to learn as much as I can so I can teach them and have it for them. It's not for me because I'm not out selling. I want them to be the best that they can. And think they understand that, and they really like that.
So just moving on, how did you rise so quickly from an agent to a regional manager, a coach, and a leader?
So it doesn't happen overnight. Nothing is quick. And I think it was just evolution. You learn, you just give it your all. And I just showed up and I really just sunk my teeth into it, into being a manager, into still being an attorney, using my attorney skills and thinking outside the box. And it just helps you grow and always just become better than who you already are.
Nice. So, what about the coaching and leadership? Was that always a part that you wanted to play?
I love coaching. And I think it's you don't make a decision to be a leader. There's a difference between a manager and a leader also. So you can make a choice to be a manager, but you really have to know how to be a leader. A leader to me, is someone that you become an influencer. You help develop other people. You listen, you learn communication styles. A manager is just running an office. So anyone can be a manager. I don't know if that really answers the question.
Yes, it does. In a way, it does for sure. And we have discussed this earlier how important it is to teach the fundamentals to the new agents that are coming in. When mentoring others, how do you balance pushing them to achieve more with offering empathy and understanding?
So that's really important. Again, that kind of comes back to, first of all, listening and really paying attention to who your agent is, because we're dealing with so many different personalities and so many different age ranges that you have to know where your agent is and meet them where they are. And you have to teach them the foundational skills. I see it so often in the industry. People come into the business and that they skip that. They may start off and they may grow to be successful, but they're not as successful as they can be if they had started with the full foundation. And it's from something so easy, such as having an organized database. I mean, this isn't a rule or a regulation or anything else, but you keep spinning your wheels when you don't have your things organized. And you're going back and you're trying to search for this person's contact or who was that and who was that? Where if you set it up at the start and you just slowly build it over the years that you're in the business, that becomes, your go to for everything, because our business is built on relationships. But if you don't track your relationships and you don't keep them organized, you lose such a big part of what could be your success.
Got it. It sounds like a huge part of your coaching is helping agents navigate compliances. And how has your legal expertise given you or your agents a competitive edge in the market?
So I think people a lot of times are afraid to do things. And one of the things we do at our office meetings is myth or fact,
Mhm.
because I think it's so important. People have preconceived notions. They've heard things over the years. Sometimes experienced agents, they come in and they're like, oh, well, you can't do that. And I'm like, really? Why not? Well, because you have to do it this way. And I go, well, show me the law on that. Where and they'll go, well, no, I don't know. And they're not really sure where that came from, where that belief came from. And I think it's so important that they understand what the actual law is so they can know like how high they can go and what they can't go through, if that makes sense. You know, you'll have your law here and people that don't know the law may be working up here.
Mm.
And so they that law and they don't even know it. And so they're jeopardizing their license status or potentially getting hit with hefty fines for breaking that law. So, you know, it protects them by knowing that law and gives them that competitive advantage of knowing what to do in negotiations and what they can't do.
Got it. Yeah, because I think that most of the agents that we talked about already, but then they are not sure. They think that, yeah, this is the only world that we are seeing, but they don't know what is outside of it. And you are
Yeah.
here to help them, to support them, to guide them through, which is incredible.
Yeah. It's funny. I just had this the other day where someone said they had a few offers come in on a listing of theirs. And they said, well, okay, so we're just going to go back and go to the seller, discuss it, and pick one. And I said, huh. I said, well, why don't you ask the seller if maybe you can try to drive those prices up by, you know, disclosing what the offer is? And they went, we're not allowed to do that. We can't disclose an offer. And I said, what are you talking about? Where is that law? I said, remember, this is about what your client wants, not about some preconceived notion that you cannot disclose. Like we have our privileged information that we keep between our confidences with our seller, but the seller is the driver. We are not. And I think, again, many agents overlook that because they don't understand and they think, oh, no, I just can't do that. And it's like, no, no, no. You need to be transparent with your seller. You need to explain to your seller and have your seller understand that you can go back, that you can disclose. It's what the seller wants. Same thing when you represent the buyer. It's what the buyer wants. What can be disclosed? You have to have those conversations with the clients. And again, that communication, it's lacking sometimes.
Got it. And as someone licensed in both New York and New Jersey, what are the biggest differences agents should be aware of when working between both the markets?
I think they need to be aware that they need to understand the different rules and regulations and the different laws between the two states. Too often, I see agents that are just not receiving the information properly and they get confused. You know, I have to say, and this is a little plug for my company, you know, duly licensed agents are in both an office in New York and both an office in New Jersey. They have a manager in New York, they have a manager in New Jersey. So even though I'm licensed in both states and I'm a broker associate in both states, they're not coming to me for advice on what to do in New York. They're coming to me because I am in New Jersey. That is my full-time focus is New Jersey. I understand the New York law and I can help people go back and forth, but I want them to go to their New York manager who is, you know, breathing and sleeping New York every day because there's too much going on, especially now, that you need that super high focused to be in two states.
So, what are the unique challenges and opportunities do the new agents face when they work with in either of the market?
So if you're a new agent and you've gone and gotten your license in two different states, that's something I usually frown upon. I tell new agents that they should get one state license, focus, learn, and embrace that first. And once they are comfortable with that, then they should consider getting the second license because getting two licenses in two different states at the same exact time, you're just overwhelmed, I think, from what I've seen. And it just becomes too much information that there's too much of a risk of not doing the right thing.
So, That's such a valuable structure that you have just shared. So, for your part, how do you stay up to date on the ever changing laws impacting real estate?
I use a few different things. I'm always in tune with what the National Association of Realtors is putting out. I stay in tune on state and local laws through the state association and also through our local association. And then I use general media outlets like Housing Wire or Riz Media. We have things that we're connected to through our associations that give us information coming right into our emails every day. Really, all you have to do is click and read. But, people get busy and they don't, and they miss things. So that's where I kind of come because I focus in on that.
Awesome. And I would like to touch on that story that you have served as president of Greater Bergen Realtors during a time of major regulatory shifts. What was that experience like?
Busy. So it was like taking on another real estate office. But when that law passed, it was really interesting to see that this is how laws work. They're passed and there's no explanation a lot of times. And it takes time for people to read, adapt the law, and truly try to explain it and teach people. So the first time a law is passed, there's definitely a lot of confusion. And we had at the time, I want to say about 8,800 members to our local board and trying to get the message out and share that with everybody on their ground where they are is really difficult because you're dealing with agents, you're dealing with newer agents, experienced agents, agents that are doing a ton of business, agents that are doing a few deals a year. You're dealing with brokers, from large brokers to smaller brokers, owners. And it was difficult. And it's still, as I had mentioned before, there are still people that don't understand the laws. We can only do so much as to put the information out, but you can lead the horse to water. They have to be the ones that want to drink. And we can put all the classes out for people, but if they don't join and they don't watch, then they don't learn. And that is the problem. But I think that's an age-old problem.
And under your leadership, the associations earned several prestigious recognitions. Which of those accomplishments are you most proud of?
Yes. I think the Global Diamond Award is one of the most amazing awards and very eye-opening. So people look at real estate and in such a local respect, right? They look at in a bubble, I think, most people when they're looking at real estate. But there was no time like COVID during COVID that we saw the global market and how the same thing affects everyone. I remember being on a Zoom call with someone in Paris, and it was the same kind of shutdown going on, and the real estate market was being hit the same. And you can see now that I think now since that time, I do pay more attention to statistics and what's going on in other areas because what's happening in one city a lot of times is happening in another city or it might be coming the way. So I think being global is just so important. However, I have to say that was the association. And I'm proud of the association. It was the people that were so involved in the global committee that worked hard, and they are the ones. I would never take credit that I got the award. I did not get the award. It's the people that put in the hard work under me at that time that got the award. And we had gotten that award 3 years in a row. So just super proud of them, super proud of the association.
So awesome. Now, I would like to talk about technology that has come into play. What do you think about AI, and are you using any AI tools in your current job?
So as far as tools, we have many tools in our toolbox from Howard Hanna that uses AI. But I always say my favorite tool is right here on my phone. It's my AI buddy. I am a big chat GPT person. I truly believe that AI is not going to replace us. However, if you do not understand and learn how to utilize AI appropriately, you will get left behind. The people that do understand it and do utilize it are going to be the ones that replace the people that do not.
100% for sure. And now I would like to end this beautiful episode on a lighter note with our rapid fire round. So I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you a few fun rapid fire questions, and you have to answer them with the first thought that comes to your mind. So, Lisa, are you ready?
I guess so.
Okay, so let's start. First one, courtroom to closing room, which gives you more of an adrenaline rush?
Courtroom.
And what one word colleagues use to describe you?
Energetic.
A favorite place in New York or New Jersey to unwind after a long week?
My hot tub. My one big investment that I made last year.
Wow, that is so cool. So now, moving on, legal dramas or real estate reality show?
Legal drama.
If you could mentor your younger self on her first day at at the DA's office, what would you tell her?
Expect the unexpected and just embrace the changes in your life.
Your coffee orders that gets you through the day.
Hazelnut.
And one leadership book or quote you swear by?
None. So
Seriously?
I have read so many different influencers, leadership books. And quite frankly, I think they all say the same thing. It's, being true to yourself, being true to other people, being honest, being an influencer. Don't be a dictator. Very big difference. Just be you, be real, always learn, keep an open mind. I think that's the theme in every single book that I have read. They may say it a little bit differently, but it all comes back. I think a true leader is really about heart.
Got it. And the biggest pet peeve in real estate?
Someone that calls a realtor a realtor. There is no I in realtor. No, it's Realtor. Realtor. So-
Awesome. And the best risk you ever took?
oh gosh, the best risk I ever took was going to law school.
What an incredible journey from Lisa Comito, from assistant district attorney to a regional manager and a coach who leads with both legal precisions and a genuine heart. Her core philosophies of prep over performance, turning compliance into a competitive edge, and mentoring with empathy are lessons every one of us can apply. We touched on her specialized work with duly licensed agent and her fantastic fact or myth approach to training. If you want to dive deeper, you can find a direct link to her 5-part content series on building client trust on our episode page. Lisa, thank you again for your time and for sharing your powerful story with all of us.
Anisha, thank you so much for having me. This has been very interesting and rewarding.
Thank you. And for our listeners, if this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe and leave us a review. Better yet, share it with one real estate pro in your network who needs that reminder to stay consistent and keep going. And here's something new. We would love to have Lisa back for a fact or myth episode. Send us your biggest real estate questions and we'll get them answered. I'm your host, Anisha Bhatnagar. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep talking about real estate.